C# can be a really powerful tool for working with the file system. It can automate file tasks, including backup creation, organizing files, monitoring file info, and more. In this video, we're going to get started working with the files and directories. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Tim Corey, and it's my goal to make learning C# easier. There are a number of ways I try to do that, but the main one is this YouTube channel. I also run a training website where I have courses that will help you out. If you come across a topic in C# or related area like SQL or Git that you'd like me to cover, let me know, and I'll add it to my suggestion list. Most of my videos are directly based upon feedback from my viewers. Okay, let's get started. Now I'm going to start from a blank project today. If you want the final source code, there's a link in the description that will take you to a blog post where you can download the source code. For this video, we're going to start with a console application. So go File, New Project, Console Application, .NET Framework. That's kind of important. We don't want to deal with the .NET Core in this. We want just the .NET Framework. We'll call this Console UI. And this is the file system demo. Okay, the first thing we do when we create a console application is we say console read line at the end to stop it from going away. And for this video, we're going to be working mostly in the system.io namespace. So we'll add that to our using statement right away. Now I've chosen the console because it's really easy to work with and kind of just display what we're doing really quickly instead of having to create lists and putting them into, bind them to something. So let's start off with a path to our location of the file system we're going to look at today, the root path. So let's call it root path equals, I'm going to say @ sign and a couple double quotes. Now the @ symbol, what it does, it allows me to use slashes without having to escape them, having to double them up. So C:// and actually it's E:// not C:// and temp/demos/file system. Okay, so that's the root path we're going to work with. That's where I've got some file set up. Let me just show you real quick. I have root file 1 and 2, which there's dummy files and nothing in them. And I've got subfolder A, which has 3 files. My file in A, my second file in A, and third file in A. And then I have subfolder B with different files. And actually the bitmap does have an image in it. I just kind of drew something really quick. So there's 3 files there. So this is the setup. Now on your machine, if you want to play around with this and try this out, then you need to point it to the correct path for your system. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read all the directories in this path. So let's do this. Let's say dirs for directories. Normally I don't abbreviate, but I think for this it'll be fine. Equals directory.get directories. We're going to pass in the path, so root path. And this gives us all the directories in this directory. We can also have a search pattern, and we can also specify search options like how far deep do you want to go? Do you want to go the whole depth as an all subfolder as well or not? So we'll leave it as is for now. And that returns, not a string, I want a string array, sorry. So string array dirs. And now I can do is a for each. And I'll say string directory in directories. And I'll do a console write line to say what's the directory. So if we run this, there we go. I have 2 directories, subfolder A and subfolder B, and it adds the full path. So E:/temp demos. And we'll work on cutting that down and showing just the folder names in just a minute. But for now, the only one I show is, I don't have one. Let's create one. Subfolder C. So now if I run this again, so I got a subfolder inside of A, but notice there's no subfolder C. And that's because this is just at the root path. That's it. So just on that path itself, no searching through directories below it. So we can say a search pattern, or we can say a search pattern and a search option. So for search pattern, we can just say star, and the search options is all directories, not just top directories only. So now if we run this, notice we get subfolder A and B, but also inside subfolder A, we have subfolder C. So there we go. Now we've seen that we can get the folders inside the folders, and even if you wanted to, the folders inside those folders. So it kind of is recursive that way. And it's up to you if you want to do this or not. This is a little dangerous if you point it at, let's just say, the C drive, because you have thousands of folders on your C drive. And so if you were to say, the path is just C:/, just, technically it's backslash, but I say slash because it's a shortcut, a generic for a slash. Hopefully you know what I mean by that. But with this, if you said C:, and said, give me all the folders underneath that would take a lot, and it would take some resources up, and it would take some time as well. And it would lock your application up for a little while. So let's not do that. Try and keep it as limited as possible to just the ones you want. And in fact, what you can do, and this is something people often overlook, is you can say, ignore the all directories, change it back to just this directory, which that's the default. So you take it off, it goes away. And then what you can do is when you loop through the directories, you could determine if you want to then do a get directories on that directory or not. That way you could say, yes, I want on C:, but I only want to dive deep if it doesn't say program files or Windows. And then you get just your custom folders probably. So that's an option as well. But let's look at the next thing we can do with this. And what if you want the files instead of the directories? And that's pretty simple. So I'm going to say var for this one. Var files equals directory.getFiles. And we can have the root path. And again, we have that search pattern, which let's just do star.star. And the search options are all directories or top directory only. Let's start off with the default of top directory only. And do for each. And it's actually a string, file in files. And we'll do a console write line and just say the actual file itself. So it's going to loop through and find every file just in the top directory, which, as we know, let's bring it down here, that would be root file 1 and root file 2. So if we run that, there we go. Indeed, we have those two files, just root file 1 and 2. And if we change this to all directories and then run again, now we have 2, 4, 6, 8 files. And it's in the different areas. Notice it dives into those folders. In fact, if we put, let me go ahead and inside of subfolder A, subfolder C, let's create a new file. And let's just make it a text file, nested file 1. And now if we run this again, we should have 9 files, including nested file 1. So it dives deep as you want into those subfolders. And you may say, well, that's great, but those long names, let's run this again. Those long names are ridiculous. I don't want to know the whole path. I just want to see rootfile1.txt. No problem. Let's comment this out. And what we'll do instead, it'll do a new console write line, but this time we're going to say path dot get file name. and pass in the file. Now it asks for a path right here. And the reason it asks for a path is because it's asking for the full file name, including the path. So we pass in the file name, which right now is the full file name. And we run this. And now it's just the file names. Now, if you did not want the extension on there, there's another option. Let's actually just copy it so you can see the different versions we do. So I Control J here to pull in a list and get file name without extension. If you run that, there's our file names, no extensions. And we can do it one more time. And this time, we can say get full path and run this. And it produces the whole file again with the file name attached. So that's not necessarily as useful, but just so you know, if you wanted to ensure you had the full path for something, it essentially just prints the file back out. The only time that's really a benefit is if you had a relative path when you passed it in. So a relative path would be a ./myfile.exe. Then it would be it'd expand that to E:/ all the way down a list. The one I actually wanted is get directory name. There we go. And that gives us the directory names of the files. So there's where each of the files lives. And of course, that's not necessarily useful in a loop like we're doing here. But if you had a full file with its path, you could grab just the extension, just the file name with the extension, or just the path. And you can kind of break those things apart and use those for different reasons. Now, what if you want some information about a file? So you've got this file, but you want to know maybe how big it is. Well, you can do that here. So console write line. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a line above this. I'm just going to say var for now because it's a little easier to start off this way. And say info equals new file info about, and you pass in the file name, so file. And now we can say info dot, and there's a whole bunch of information in here, but one of them is length. If you notice, this is the size in bytes of the current file. So let's actually, just so we have a little more information, a little context around it, let's do our $sign syntax, which is that string interpolation. And we're going to say path dot get file name without extent. Well, get file name is fine. Let's leave the extension on. And we're going to say info.length and bytes afterwards. And get file name, we got to pass in the file. There we go. So now we should get the file size for each of our files. And in fact, most of them are empty, but we have the B folder 2.excel file actually has some size to it, and the bitmap has a lot more size to it. Now these are in bytes, which if you want to convert that to kilobytes or megabytes, that would be yours to create. You work on that. It's basically just dividing by 1024 to get kilobytes, and again for megabytes, and again for gigabytes. So that's the file info. There's a lot more info you can get here. If you look at info, you have the last write time, you have the last access time, you have the create information, create time, and you have some attributes as well. That would be things like, does it have the archive flag on it and other flags like that. You probably don't need those for most things, but you can find out if it's read-only or not, and a bunch of other information like that. You can even open it if you want to. Now, just so you're aware, that gets a little tricky when you have files that can't necessarily open inside C# directly. Excel files, kind of a problem if you just try to open them and modify them. So that gets us all the information about the files and folders on our file system. But that's just kind of a read access version of our file system. Let's talk about how we can kind of use these things or take advantage of them. And so one of the ways we can do things is we can create automation tasks with C#. And one of the easiest things to do in automation with C# is file system manipulation. So, for example, if you always do a certain thing with files, well, you can use C# to do it instead. Or if you want a tool that kind of repeats things over and over again, you can do that as well. Or verify certain things are in place, or like getting things set up. So, for example, if you deploy your application to a system, and you'll make sure that it has a temp folder and that it has a log file in that temp folder that's already set up and just blank and ready to go, those kind of things, that's what this is great at. So let's look at a couple of tasks you might do with C#. And the first one is, let's verify if a directory exists. So directory.exists, that's really simple, right? Directory.exists, and we'll see whether or not this path exists on disk. So I'm going to say $, a couple double quotes. Oops, not $. I want the @ symbol. We're going to say e:/temp/demos/file system. That's our kind of the root of our where we're playing around. And then in here, I'm going to say subfolder C, which does not exist. So if you look here, I have subfolder A and B. Inside A is subfolder C, but we don't have a subfolder C. So, and this returns a Boolean. So we can say, just console write line and say, well, actually, let's do an if statement. Makes it easier for the console write line. If directory exists, I'm going to leave it just like that. Directory exists. This is the implicit way of doing things. And because it's named nicely, then directory exists makes it easy to read this. If directory exists, do this. If directory does not exist, do the other thing. So in this case, the directory exists. Else, the directory does not exist. And we hit start. And we see the directory does not exist. Now, if I change this to subfolder A, I'm going to do lowercase here just to kind of prove a point. The directory exists. Now, if we look, subfolder A, the A is capitalized. That's because we're case insensitive at this point. We don't really care about case. Let's change that back to C for a minute. So what if this directory does not exist? Well, what if we said directory.create directory, and it says creates all directories and subdirectories in a specified path unless they already exist. This is an awesome little tool. And we get the path. So let's put this into a variable first. So I'm going to grab this whole thing right here. I'm going to control X out, and we're going to say string new path equals, and that path. Now, just to make it a little more complicated, we're going to say subfolder D. So there's actually two layers here that don't exist. So we're going to check to see if that path exists. If it does not exist, we're going to create that directory. And then we'll look at it in the folder and we'll run it again just to kind of verify. So it says the directory does not exist. But now if we look, subfolder C does exist. and subfolder D exists as well. So it created both of those subfolders. Now, if I run this again, it should just say that the directory exists. But even cooler is, what if I don't care? I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to say, I don't really care if the subfolder exists or not. Go ahead and create it. And in fact, I'm going to put something in subfolder C. I'll put a file. New text document's fine. And then something else in, let's put an access database. There you go. So it's an access database in subfolder or subfolder D. Now let's run this again where I'm just going to create it. I don't really care if it's there or not. I hit start, and of course, it's just empty screen. I hit enter, it's closed because I didn't put anything to the console. But now if I come here to subfolder C, that file still exists. Subfolder D, that file still exists. It didn't crush anything. It just created if it existed or if it did not exist. So that means we really don't need to check first. If you just run this, it's going to go ahead and create the directory for you. Now it takes a little bit of work, but so does checking to see if a directory exists. So really, if you're going to think about creating directories or the directory might not be there, this right here is really handy. Just go ahead and power through and create the entire path. Now let's talk about files. So let's copy or comment this out. Let's talk about, first of all, copying files. So we have two folders in the root. We have root file 1 and root file 2. What if you want to copy these files and put them into subfolder A, which are not there right now? So let's do that. I'm going to say string array. Oops, we need to spell it right. String array files equals, and we'll say directory.get files. And we're going to pass in the root path. But I'm not going to pass in a filter, and I'm not going to pass in a get the sub files as well. Just get the files in the root path. I'm going to say for each. I'll say string file in files. So for each of these files, which there should only be 2, and just to verify that there are, so we don't mess anything up, let's run this. I did a console write line, and sure enough, there's just those 2 files. Let's go ahead and I'm going to grab the root file and I'll copy this real quick. And come down here and paste it. And we'll say this is the destination folder. And we'll say that the destination folder is subfolder A, which I know exists, so I won't do a check for it. But if you're actually going to make sure that you're moving things or copying things, I'd verify that this exists. So for each file and file, instead of doing a console write line, what we're going to do is we're going to say file.copy. And the source file is file. And the destination file is going to be the destination folder. Now here's where actually we need string interpolation. So I'll say $, couple of double quotes. And I'll pass in first the destination folder, and then I'll pass in the / character, which actually I'll pass that in at the end right here. And now I'll pass in path.get file name with extension, so I don't need to say without extension, and the file. So right now what I've done is I said, here's the source file, which is that root file 1 or root file 2. And then here's the destination it's going to go to, including the file name. So there's the destination folder, which is this right here. And then I said, give me just the file name. This is where that really comes in handy. So we're not renaming the file. And it has the right extension as well. Now, there is another option if you hit comma, and that's, do you want to allow overwrites? So an overwrite is if the file already exists, do we want to take this new file and put it in place of that existing file? So we'll say true. So we're going to start this. And of course, nothing really happens because there's no output to the screen. We hit enter. Let's go here to subfolder A. And now we have root file 1 and root file 2. So those are both there. Now let's just demonstrate what would happen if I didn't name these this way. So instead of getting the file name, I am going to do something a bit different. And comment this out real quick. And instead I'm going to do a for loop. So for I equals 0, I is less than files.length and I++. What this allows me to do is have an index that I can work with. So I grab the same thing and copy it and paste it. But this time, instead of file name or get file name, I'm going to say i.txt. So it's going to have a number of the file we're copying and .txt. And this is going to be files, and it's going to be I, like so. And now if we run this, it's run, trust me. Go to subfolder A, and now we have 0 and 1.txt. There's those two files. So we can rename as we go. So for example, if you're copying from one location to another, but you want to, in the process, change the naming structure or give it a more easily identified number or whatever you want to do, that's no problem. You can just read it in your system and change it as you go. And just kind of prove, let's just open this up and say, hello world. Gotta save this. And that's in the subfolder A, where it says hello world. Let's run this again. And it's done. So now subfolder A0 is empty again because it overwrote. Now if I change this again, hello y'all, and it is there. Now what we can do is down here we can say false for don't overwrite. And it says, hey, there's already a file that exists here. And so it throws an exception. So that's, you get the process that or handle it yourself. Maybe you want to ignore it, and that's fine. Wrap it in a try catch and say, if it is a system.io.io exception, then we can ignore that error and continue on. But this way it safely prevents us from doing something we didn't want, which is overwriting this file. Now let's comment this out. And what if we want to do, instead of a copy, we want to do a move. So I'm going to copy this and paste it down below. And we'll uncomment it. And instead of file.copy, we'll say file.move. Now there's no option for whether you want an overwrite or not. So file.move doesn't have the do you want to allow overwrites. So let's see what happens when those files already exist. So remember that the root file 1 and 2 are what we're copying over or moving over now. Let's see what happens when we run this. It says, no, you can't already do that because they already exist. So let's do this just to kind of demonstrate it does work for moving. I'll delete the 2 and we're going to run it again. And it runs. And now root file 1 and 2 are there, but they're not at the root. So that's how we can move things around if we want to on disk as well. So that's really just a start of what you can do with the file system, but I want you to think through all the different possibilities of how you can work with the file system to really automate some of your daily tasks. This is one of those areas where if you want to create an application to kind of show off your C# skills, it's a great way, a great starter type thing, because you can start really small and start growing up over time with what your automation system does. For instance, and I'll show you a demo here, just kind of show off what you could do. If your file system accumulates temp files or other type files that are kind of clogging it up, and there's tools out there you can buy or you can get for free that will go through and clean up different temp folders and those kind of things. But maybe instead of using a tool that has a lot of overhead and does other things and tries to get you to buy it and all the rest, what if you create your own tool? And that's where let's grab the for each here. I'm going to copy this and paste this and uncomment the whole thing. I actually need to grab this line as well. We're going to grab all directories in our root directory. So it's all directories. And if we just start with the basics, so just the file names, let's grab the full path. Let's comment out these as well. So you run this. That's all our files and their folders in our root folder. But what if we did this? What if we said, you know what? Instead of star.star, I only want the XLSX files, the Excel files. Let's run that. And there's just one file. So we can kind of narrow in our search and say, no, you know what? I want any file type we want, but I want something that says folder. We run that. And there's 3 files that have folder in their name. So you can kind of dial in on just the files you want. And then you can have a routine that goes through and deletes those files, or one that moves them into an archive folder. So if maybe it's a log file, and log files are kind of important sometimes, but maybe they're going to your C drive, and your C drive doesn't have a lot of space, but you have an external hard drive, or you have a second hard drive in a computer, you could have a routine that goes through and moves the files from your C drive over to a log directory on your secondary hard drive, and that would clean it up. Or maybe you're working in Visual Studio, which, surprise, but you want to be able to take your files and move them or copy them to a thumb drive so you can take them somewhere else. Well, you can create an application that just says, here's the root of my project folder, so that I have all my projects I possibly created, and it grabs them all and it copies them over to your thumb drive. And maybe even it says, don't copy if it already exists, or maybe it says, overwrite it and just get all of them, make sure you have the latest version. And they have the same thing in reverse. So you're coming back. You get your thumb drive, you've made some changes, you hit the other direction and it overwrites the other way, and now you have all your latest changes on your computer, and you still have that backup on your thumb drive. So you have kind of the both options there. Now, there's going to be some future videos that go into even more things you can do and give kind of some more tools to work with the file system and things you can do with the file system. So my encouragement to you is to start off by using this and trying to create a couple ideas in your mind of ways you can make your life a little easier, whether it's managing your files on your desktop, or whether it is backing up files to a thumb drive, or managing, cleaning out those extra files that you created. Whatever it is, get some demos out there and kind of start working with this. And then as we go through other videos, you can kind of expand your knowledge and expand what you can do with C#. Because the more you use it, the better off you'll be with it. All right, so that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely leave comments down below as to your thoughts, what you've used it for. I'd love to hear your ideas and how you've made use of this in order to really make C# work for you. Okay? Thanks, and as always, I am Tim Corey.